When it comes to Valorant, the thing that makes it stand out is the agents, right? The fact that we have abilities makes it separate from a lot of other tactical shooters, and being creative with those set abilities is extremely enjoyable. And I will give Riot credit. When it came to ISO, we saw some creativity. Sure, it didn't work out, and I hope that a rework or buff can fix the agent. Same thing goes for Deadlock, but creativity is still something that's enjoyable, right? Deadlock's ultimate is creative, and I always found it very cool regardless of its viability. Through patches, it could always get better, but that's not the point of today's video. Today, I want to talk about fan-made agents, community creations that kind of have the room to get a little bit more wild. And by the end of it, you're going to be wishing some of these agents actually make it in. And PS, sometimes they do. Riot does draw inspiration from their community, which is something I actually do like about them. All right, the first agent we're going to be talking about is Kabuto. Just take a step back, look at this panel. So much going on, but let's explain this first fan concept. Kabuto, the possessed obsidian. Now, Kabuto has always been called a hero in his hometown, and his backstory is extremely cool. Basically, he was an excellent doctor who wanted to look young once again. He heard about a ruin which lays far away in an obsidian temple. No one dared to get close, but Kabuto went off on his little adventure, but he never came back. Now, this agent is actually a figure of a lost memory who is believed to be dead, discovering a temple over 800 years ago. However, his memory has never been mentioned, and the people feel his presence through the houses and land. So you're playing kind of as a ghost. So keep that in mind when you read his abilities, because dude's got actually a really cool backstory. Now, the base idea of Kabuto is that he holds two separate katanas, a swiftness katana and a reaper katana. The on-hand buff for the swiftness is that it increases his walking speed by 20%, which is insane, and the Reaper Katana buff is that you can harvest 50 HP per kill. Now, some balancing actually happens with the first ability, which is the C ability, situational swapping. Kabuto swaps to his other katana. The katana will stay on his side and will not appear until ready to send a quick dash. This ability will not trigger any sound, so you can swap katanas every 25 seconds, okay? Then, his Q, Obsidian's Alleviation, Kabuto locks himself into an animation and then regenerates 60 HP over time for 6 seconds. This actually seems kind of weak because he's stuck for 6 seconds, which sounds a little bit too insane. It also triggers sounds and burning for anyone who is close. So this reminds me of League of Legends. I think Master Yi is his name. When he heals, he stands still and starts healing himself. Then he has his E, which is a quick slash. Now, what's cool here is its effect changes depending on your katana. If you have the swiftness katana, it sends a wave that will knock and damage enemies on hit. If you have the Reaper katana, it sends a wave that will bleed and paranoid all enemies on hit. Bleed and paranoid just sounds kind of like an insane combo. It is a quick slash, so upon tapping the ability, Kabuto will get buffed depending on the katana that he's holding. You press left click to send a unique shockwave that will pass through walls at a maximum range of 15 meters, similar to Omen's Paranoia, but it's a shockwave. Now, the right click will set the katana at a deflective mode, and then it dashes you forward. You also deflect 50% of all incoming bullets. So we're kind of playing Genji to some extent. I do find some of the balancing unique. Maybe we're getting too crazy for Valorant, but the idea is that it's a dash similar to Jett, but let's say as Jett's dashing forward, if bullets were coming her way, now Jett's immune, but let's say Kabuto, if you were just opping and you hit the op shot, there's a 50% chance the bullet gets deflected. While if you're spamming with Odin, it's probably still gonna kill him. So it's a very unique concept. Now, I know he sounds kind of overwhelming because even as I'm reading it, you guys get a ton of visuals and a lot of cute little things going on to hopefully help sell the idea. But keep in mind, when it comes to a real agent, someone like Astra at face value is actually very complicated, right? Like 5 stars all do different things. Once a character is genuinely made, it's a little more cohesive, and I could see Kabuto being cohesive. Now, he still has his ultimate, which is Okazaki's Ancestor. This one, a little bit wild. Upon activation, Kabuto will enter the possessed mode, being able to fight normally until he dies. On death strike, so when he hits 0 HP, Kabuto will perish, and Okazaki will come out from his body, gaining 20% movement speed and automatically chasing an enemy agent, eventually taking control of his body. The agent they possess will be blinded and unable to fire or use abilities. Kabuto's weapons will be refunded for the next next round, and the killer will lose all his weapons next round. This is way too whack. It doesn't even make any sense. I like the idea that once you activate, when you die, you know, when KO die, he falls to the floor. So to alter this better is like when Kabuto dies, the possession comes out, and similar to a Yoru clone with like AI, it will chase the enemy. The enemy can either maybe defeat it, run away, somehow avoid it, but it'll move fast enough where there's a chance that it hits the enemy, paralyzing the enemy. No need to mess with the economy or weapons, just paralyzing the enemy, and it's still good. It means when Kabuto ults, plays for a kill, and then dies, that clone can still create space. Like, you know, or that possessed automatic moving thing can still create space. You don't really need to do a bunch of all of the extra stuff because the concept itself is already very, very cool. All right, on to the next agent. Lura is a really well thought out agent, and I love the design. I love the visuals provided. We'll try to animate something to make it interesting, but of course that can be a little bit hard. But let's start with her biography. So nothing is more charismatic than a woman who yields 2 giant gauntlets just for the sake of protecting her team. Lura found a way to freely manipulate a rare form of slimy water and transform it into any shape and tool, giving her insanely unique abilities and combat advantages for herself and even her teammates. Lura worked for 6 years with Kingdom, then left her badge at the 7th year to protect her country, since Kingdom only focused on bigger missions and battles. Let's get into it, starting with the sea bubbly trap. Lura fixes a device on the wall that will launch a thick water bubble onto its first spotted enemy. Enemies who get touched by the bubble will get deafened and lifted up from the ground for X seconds. Now, admittedly, I gotta say, it's pretty interesting. We do have deadlock now with that sound trap. I think the bubbly trap wouldn't be as useless because it actually stops them from moving and lifts them up from the ground for a moment of time. X seconds just means it's up for interpretation on how much you think that would be balanced. I definitely think it's super cool. Next we have Q, Watery Gifter. Lura pulls up her watery arm and aims at her ally, actively healing him for X duration and X seconds and consuming some of her water fuel tank. So think Viper with that fuel tank, but it's creating a water chain of some sort that heals your allies. So kind of like Mercy from Overwatch, when you're throwing out that heal, you gotta connect to them. Aiming at enemies will recharge the water tank over time. This is weird because it means, let's say you get behind an enemy, you might want to try to grab some water to refill your tank and then kill them. I think this is completely unnecessary. I think it should just be a tank that has, maybe that tank can heal a total of 200 HP for the entire round. You can use it all on one person. You can divide it, maybe 100 HP the entire round, same idea. They're more like Sky. You know how Sky's heal works? It's something like that. Something like that makes more sense. A targeted heal that's stronger though than Sky's AoE one. Now the thing that makes it different than something like Sky and more like Viper is because E, Slimy Surface, Lura consumes half of her water tank and releases a straight watery path for X amount of seconds that will benefit her allies with bonus movement speed while acting like a slippery surface for her enemies. I can't imagine Riot making like a slippery effect on agents, like if you let go of your movement key after running, you slide a little bit and you're inaccurate. But to be honest, if they can make ISO an entire new dimension, they can make something like this, because this actually sounds lit. Like getting onto site while making map control, because if your enemies step on it, they become inaccurate because they're sliding around. Like that's actually really cool. Now X, the ultimate bubble mania. Lura opens a big range and causes a big circular water surface that will continuously spawn bubbles from the ground up. Oh, blocking vision and trapping an enemy caught by the bubble while it's forming. Enemies caught by the bubble of the ultimate will have the same debuff as the bubble trap, so they float into the air. Sounds a lot like Harbor. Now, all these came out way before Harbor, Deadlock, etc. Just keep that in mind. But that, like Harbor's Tsunami is very similar to what this idea is. And to be honest, it does fit her very well. I think this sounds a lot more fun than Harbor. I mean, it's a Sentinel instead of a controller. I think that X is really cool. Some AoE similar to Harbor, but it bubbles them up into the air. You know what? That sounds really lit. I like this agent a lot. Next, we're going to be talking about Sett. You can see his design here. He's actually based on the Egyptian god of storms and deserts. A Radiant uses his powers around sand to hinder his enemies and support his allies, and he is a controller. Let's get into it, starting with C, Dune Rounds. Buy one, which will cost 200, and last 10 seconds. Destroyable, it has 150 HP. Equip a sand pillar Fire to place the pillar. Upon placement, the pillar will funnel sand bullets to all allies in range, providing unlimited ammo. Same radius as Brimstone's stim beacon, so not very big. All allies in the abilities field will not have their bullets go below 1 in the current clip, meaning just infinite ammo. However, if you're at 0 bullets and you start reloading and then walk in, it doesn't cancel the animation, so you don't just get instant unlimited ammo. There needs to already be ammo in your gun. 3 of you buy Odin, he throws down the sand pillar, you all go in there and just infinite spam. Why this is insane is because it's actually a completely new strategy. It means, like, let's say in Ascent, you know how there's that area where you can spam the Odin as they're trying to rush the site. You can throw that down first and hold down like 10 seconds straight, then the Odin's bullets start depleting after. You can completely control that area permanently for like 15 seconds. So maybe a little too strong, but I love how unique it is. The next ability, Q, Sand Trap, buy 2, each cost 100, lasts 5 seconds. Equip a sand trap, fire to throw a sand trap forward that expands upon landing, creating a small field that slows all players' movement against the directional arrow. Alt fire rotates the directional arrow. Only movement directly against the arrow is slowed. All other direction movement is not slowed or sped up. This is actually extremely weird because think of a Sage Orb, but depending on the directional arrow you put, let's say which is forward, when they're walking against it, they're slowed, but not the other way. Don't like this, too complicated. Anytime you're complicating a simple ability, it's not going to be good for the game. So instead, similar to a Sage Orb, just copy it. It's okay if we had another Sage Orb in the game, but it's sand, you kind of slow down as location, creating a long-lasting smoke that blocks vision. Hold alternate fire while targeting to move the marker further away. Hold the ability key with targeting to move the marker closer. Map indicators are exactly like Omen Smoke, which you probably already imagined. Unlike Omen Smoke though, the sandstorm travels across the map at its full size and at a slower speed, but faster than a player's running speed. So it means Omen kind of shoots it and then it expands when it gets to its point. Instead, it's more similar to a harbor wall. It will move forward and then settle where you've decided. All players caught in the sandstorm while it is traveling or stationary are nearsighted. So TLDR, you are mixing harbor wall, probably a lot smaller, or still a circle or a sandstorm effect, with Omen Smoke, the way it's deployed, and as it's traveling, it's also Omen's Paranoia. Yeah, I mean, this kind of sounds kind of cool though. I'm not gonna lie, it sounds actually pretty cool. Now when it comes to X, his ultimate, Mirage, 7 ultimate points, last 10 seconds and destroyable, but it has 2000 HP. All right, okay. Equip a Mirage, fire to create a sandy wall that moves forward, forming a Mirage that hides allied players on the other side from enemy vision. Oh my God. That sounds sick. So imagine a harbor wall you throw out, but the enemies don't see it coming because it's like a slightly distorted vision, and behind the wall, it's like kind of clear. So you're invisible. Yo, that's crazy cool idea. They'll hear the footsteps, or maybe if the walk slow, limit its usage. Okay. Has a minimum and maximum range that extends across. Does not hide the spike, dropped weapons, or casted abilities. So if Reyna throws a blind, it could, like, for example, ruin the plan. There is a telltale shimmer glow where the Mirage is placed, making it easier for both teams to tell where it's placed. So yeah, there's something you can pay attention to. Allies can see enemies through it, but enemies can't see allies. It's a one-way mirror. Ally bullets do not damage the Mirage. Enemy bullets damage the Mirage and anything directly behind it. Okay, so the Mirage does not stop bullets, meaning if there's 5 of you and they're spraying and praying, the Mirage is being broken and you're still taking damage. That is pretty cool. This is a cool freaking agent. All right, on to the next one. The agent Curvix. I would say that the overall styling and art is kind of bare bones, but what is very, very interesting is that he just doesn't really look human. I actually think he might be too out of place, but then I remember something like KO is a straight up robot and they figured it out. So maybe creature-esque is possible. I have trouble imagining it in Valorant, but I could be wrong. I'm just having trouble imagining it. Now, let's go through the abilities, starting with the C ability, Forgive Yourself. Curvix marks an ally for the rest of the round. If the marked ally receives damage, then remains untouched, he will begin to regenerate health over time, refunding his missing health. However, it does trigger sound over the healing time, so your location stays obvious. This reminds me, of course, a lot of Zenyatta from Overwatch. The next ability, which is Q, Calm Down, Curvix puts his hands together and releases a small wave that will stop all agents from firing their weapons for X amount of seconds. Curvix won't also be able to fight. The ability range will be visible seconds before activating. Now, I don't know exactly about how this could work, like just immediately calming down an area, conceptually just stopping fighting is a little bit weird for Valorant. I am thinking it more like, you know how KO when he ults, there's a AoE effect, it suppresses abilities. So I do wonder instead if it could be another suppression ability that just stops, just stops abilities. Similar to KO knife in a decent range. He puts his hands together, boom, 10 seconds, no abilities, can be used to initiate, or if you're in a 1v1, you hide behind cover, boom, you send it out in a big area of effect from your body, and then you turn to just have a gunfight. That could work. I don't know about stopping bullets though. I think that's too abrupt for Valorant in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. Now E, you don't need that. Now we need to work on the ability names here, but either way, Curvix places a weird looking device that will start sucking the nearest weapon ammo from its enemy agent over time, while triggering sounds over time. The device can be destroyed upon its activation, notifying Curvix upon its destruction. So basically, he throws down a little weird looking device, and if 5 people rush that site, they all start losing some ammo. That is kind of creative. Now, it depends. Is it reservoir ammo or main ammo? Because that can be insane. Dude's running in with a shorty, 2 bullets, and like the 2 bullets are gone. I don't know how you could balance this. I love the concept, but I cannot imagine how it could be balanced, which is the main issue. All right, next we have Inner Peace Aura, which is his ultimate X. Curvix channels and glows up, opening a big blast range that will prevent all upcoming crowd control effects for all existing agents in the range. Disturbing Curvix while his ultimate is running will cancel its effect. So this one seems too weak because it's way too niche, meaning you'd waste an ult for an area of effect just to stop stuff like Sage slows or trips, or the entire idea here is at this point you might as well just have a KO ult. So unfortunately this one seems too weak unless we buff it and instead it just neutralizes all effects. So like even Viper Poison or any effect you can imagine gets neutralized and slowly heals them over time. So you can kind of maybe like in a site area slowly heal the entire team over time while suppressing all crowd control and other defects on the team. Maybe at that point it could work out. Otherwise it probably be a little bit too weak, but still I gotta give him credit. It is a unique idea and design. Last but not least, we have XTR or Extra. All we have is this picture. There's actually no abilities, but it's more on the character design. It's obviously, let's just keep it honest, very suggestive, which isn't super weird. Like Riot has Ari or other characters on the League side that's even based their abilities around being suggestive. Then we have stuff like Overwatch with Widowmaker. So would you guys care if there's a suggestive agent? It's a pretty cool design regardless. I don't mind. I think it's cool. Wanted to share it. That would be the 5th agent. Thank you for watching. Let me know what agent you'd like to see added to Valorant down below.